Hi, I'm Reginald Campbell with the House of Reconciliation. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. We've got a little bit of details that we've got to pay attention to because if we don't begin the transition, we cannot, and it'll be a struggle to make it in the transformation. So I'm going to give you a few things. My goal is to be done in about 15 minutes, but we may actually go over just so I can feed you this because Sunday is kind of like the last time, and then we walk into the month of July. Transition. And I just discovered this some time ago. And normally when we think about transition, we kind of see it as one thing. We look at salvation, we kind of see it as, oh, well, that's my spirit. And the challenge is we've left out everything else that should be a part of that growth and that change. This is why the subject is half in or half out. It comes from the butterfly theory. A caterpillar that spins the cocoon cannot spin half of its body in it. It has to emerge its entire self into it. And it's news to me and it's an awakening to me. It is not just one face of me. It's not that God is a spirit and they that worship him shall worship him in spirit and truth. But it's a total life change. And that's kind of what I've gotten out of this month of talking about transition. It can't just be my job. Oh, I'm going to go to my job and I'm going to think this way and I'm going to perform this way. It has to be everything about me. And I think that's where some of us, and I can say myself, did not pay attention, did not get it. I mean, you know, they talk about your talent could get you there, but it's your character that keeps you there. Well, there's some things that go along with my character because my talent is what put me in the opportunity. But I have to have more than that. So I'm going to break this down to us. It kind of hit me when I was doing this, the transition, moving from one phase of life to another. I kind of started looking at it a little deeper. Mentality, emotionally, spiritually, socially, economically, and physical. And I didn't really know that all of these things would have to learn how to transition in order for me to have a full transformation. And so now I understand when Paul said, forgetting those things which are behind me. And I also understand a little bit more clear when the Bible says you become a new creature. Old things have passed away. There's some mentalities that have to go. There's some emotional things that have to go. There's some spiritual wickedness that has to go. That goes back to James 1:21. There's some social things that has to change. Sometimes you can't try to do your best and then cloud yourself with social things that are not feeding the best side of you. Okay, so in lay terms, it would mean sometimes we like mess. And that mess is not healthy for us spiritually, economically. I make more money, but I spend the new money that I make doing the same old things physically. Am I taking care of my temple? So when I looked at this, it made me think deeper, and I'm trying to go slow. But when I looked at the other piece that I wrote, transitions are uncomfortable because you're no longer who you were, but you haven't fully become who you will be yet. And the thing that got me is more than one thing that has to transition. And so out of the month of June, the month of challenges, and earthly and naturally and spiritually, it has been a challenge, but I've learned something. And that's the whole key of the conversations that we have. That's why I'm using the butterfly theory, because many of us are working hard, but all of us, our body, mind, and spirit is not in sync. This is why I use in one thought, getting in sync. I want to grow, but there are things that I need to do. Understand right off the bat, no life is perfect. Whether it's our mother, our father, or our grandmother, our grandparents, or someone we admire, a celebrity, or whatever. No life is perfect. What we're working toward is a holistic approach to life that creates a balanced life. This is not about being perfect. So here's some things I want to give you. We can no longer be half in and half out. If you look at some of the posts, it talks about we spend 70% of our time rehearsing things that no longer is in our present. There are 8 things in emotional intelligence that you and I have to grow into. But before that, I'm going to give you the simple 4 things that I've used for years as the 4 horsemen. The 4 horsemen is a new attitude. When this caterpillar goes through this transition and begins the transformation, it cannot pull out. And what you and I have done is many times that God is trying to develop us, to extract some things from us, to install some things in us. We get up off of the operating table and go do us because we don't like the pain. The pain is there to create an experience that now becomes wisdom, that becomes a buffer that you and I don't go back and do what we've done before. So many of us have walked out when we found the requirements. It's like the rich young ruler, when God used a parable and says, well, you got to give up everything. It wasn't that he had to give up everything, but was he willing to commit? And the truth was he wanted it, but he didn't want to pay the price for it. And so sometimes you get asked a deeper question to see if you're going to be authentic. So what we have to work toward is becoming authentic and real to ourselves. So now when I look at emotional intelligence, there are 8 key things that we have to do. Number 1 is listening. Many people don't listen well. Number 2, and you can create your own order, is relationships. It's tough to have relationships if you're not a listener. And I'm going to show you some pros and cons of IQs of emotional intelligence, low emotional intelligence, and high emotional intelligence. Listening, relationships, trust. Number 3 is tough for most people because most people are still in the wounds and the scars that they've had. And sometimes we are healed, but we keep picking at something that no longer exists, which means I keep bringing up things of what was and not focusing on things that are what are. Because if I don't focus on my present, then I can never water and plant my future. And as I have said before, the soil and the seed has to come into agreement, which means there must be minerals and nutrients and certain things within the soil and the right temperature in order for the seed, the whole of the seed, to give up the rights of the seed, for the seed to emerge and the two come together and grow. They both need each other. You need your present and you need your future. Your past is a memory. Your past is an experience. It is life lessons, but it does not control your future unless you are giving power to your past. Now, listening, relationships, trust, compassion, patience. A lot of people don't have patience. Neither do they have compassion. Now, they want compassion when it comes to them, but there's no compassion when it comes to others. When you're that way, the next one is understanding. Sometimes people don't want to listen to understand. All they want to do is be right, even when they're wrong. Understanding, having a comprehension that I need to understand. Instead of rejecting, allow myself to hear it out, take the pros and the cons, and know the difference. Everything that's happening is not a personal attack. And because people are sensitive and tender, they will explode over anything. Because it's not you, it's what's going on inside of them. And many times what's going on inside of their mind that's causing a reaction that is not needed. The next one is a healthy dose of communication. I was speaking with someone earlier. You do not have to get your emotions, and people use this term, I've seen it across the globe, I'm full. You don't have to get full to communicate. What you're doing is you're expressing emotions, and many times the emotion that you're expressing is not needed. We just need the facts and the truth. But because you're so attached to it, which means that you wear your emotions on your sleeves. And if you wear your emotions on your sleeves, you become an easy target. The next one is having empathy. You should have a heart not only for others, but you should have a heart to forgive yourself. You should be willing to correct yourself. You should be willing to adjust your attitude, because you can't, and the Bible talks about, you can't take new wine and put it into old wine skins. And many times people want new things without a total you changing. And so some of us are struggling and don't know why, can't figure out why. It's because there's some behaviors and some attitudes that we must amend ourselves. I know that people have told us, God will do it, look at him, want to do it. But there are some things God leaves up to you. There is a human form to us. God is not going to arm wrestle you. God's not going to tie you up. God is not going to make the chocolate cake leave the refrigerator. God's not going to take the blackberry ice cream away. You have to make a decision. And when you make that decision, that what's ahead of you is more important than what's standing in front of you, then you'll get control of yourself. I'll give you those again. Listening, relationships, trust, compassion, patience, understanding, communication, empathy. We have a lot of work to do. So in planting, if there's no new attitude, there will not be a different result. The attitude affects the behavior affects the focus, and the focus affects the discipline. We all need better attitudes toward life, in life, and toward people. We need to first check our own behavior, because sometimes you're acting out. You were not heard yesterday. So today you're going to make sure you're heard, but you're bringing something to the table that's not required. We just need the truth and the facts. We don't need all these stories that you want to tell us of what he did and she did. A decision can't be made off of that. It has to be made off of facts and substance and truth. And so now I'm going to give you this other piece, and it's not taking quite as long. I did have some things written down. We'll see if we can get to that. Low emotional intelligence. When a person has low emotional intelligence, they're aggressive, they're demanding. And the reason I'm saying these to you is because sometimes you're trying to change a person and you don't know what's wrong with the person. And sometimes they have a low EQ, low emotional intelligence. They're very aggressive, they're demanding, egotistical, bossy, and confrontational. That's just the beginning. And sometimes you're somewhere on your knees trying to pray for a person, and these are things that this person has to control, not you. No one assigned you here on earth to control people. And a lot of times, leadership is trying to force people to change rather than teach people what change is all about. And you have a right to accept it or reject it. Now, if you accept it and you grow, that's great. If you reject it, be willing to pay the price for the rejection. The other thing is, with low emotional intelligence, is easily distracted, selfish, a very poor listener, and impulsive. Some people go, and I'm going to start doing finances again in July. Some people go to the store with $40 and wind up spending $200, but only needed 4 items. What happened? Impulse. What does that mean? Let me take it a little deeper. Some people never have a problem until they're told no. And when you say no to some people, sometimes you have the biggest problem. But as long as they can manipulate you, use you, take up your time and space, then they're fine. But when you push back and say, I have something else planned, I need to do something else, it becomes a problem. Here's the other thing about low emotional intelligence. Resist change, passive, unresponsive. When you need them, you can't find them. They're busy. Slow to make decisions, and stubborn. I'm not frozen. I'm letting this sink in. Resistance to change. Who does this sound like? Sound like the first group that the Lord was trying to take out. It says emotional intelligence, EQ, refers to ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's own emotions. I wrote this because I knew we would get to this point. The promise is there. Are you willing to adjust to the qualifications of the promise? What does that mean? You want God to give you more for nothing ever to change in your life and show that God is in your life. And the biggest thing that can show others and yourself that God is in your life is the adjustment in you. It is not the things you have. It is not the things that you possess. It is not assets. It is actually a spiritual light within you that people can see the Christ in you. You don't need a class for that. You just need to turn the light on. And so what it says is there was a promise given, but there was no relationship. And so many people have been given a promise by God. PWP, prayers wrapped in promises, promises wrapped in prayer. But here's the thing. They want the promise without a relationship. And this is why they spent 40 years in the wilderness. They wanted results, but they didn't put forth effort. They didn't understand sacrifice. That is a word that is not popular today. They didn't understand work habits, work ethics, pushing forward, having resiliency in you, perseverance, self-control. They just wanted God to bless them, and they remained the same. And so that's why I said the promises are there. But I'm asking you, believers, non-believers, where's the relationship? And is it a quality relationship? If you want high demanding things, do you have a high articulate relationship with God that he can trust you with what he blesses you with? Or you just want the blessing to go back to your little group and start talking about your 2.1 kids and, my husband just got a new job, and my wife she's going to Paris, and we're going to Dubai, and we're going to do it. Really? That we still doing that? We still talking about us. We're not building nothing. We're not coming together as a group. We just still talking about us. Me, 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 me. I to God is sick of you. So he left him in the wilderness. So we have to be all in or all out or all dead. The choice is ours. Nothing halfway. Now somebody said, well, I don't agree with that. I just really don't agree with that, Reggie. Well, let me give it to you plain. If you halfway, you double-minded. The Bible says a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. So now when you look at it, and we're looking at a low emotional intelligence. I've got about 3 minutes. They're critical. Some people are always criticizing other people. They don't even know the people they criticizing, but somebody gave them something to talk about. They picky, they fussy, hard to please, and they're perfectionists. Everything for them has to be perfect, and that's because they're insecure. And that is considered a low emotional intelligence. High emotional intelligence, assertive, ambitious, driving, strong-willed, decisive. They make decisions. Warm, enthusiastic, sociable, charming, progressive. That's high emotional intelligence. They're patient, stable, predictable, constant, consistent. They're a good listener. They pay attention to details. They're careful. They're meticulous, systematic, and they're neat. You pick your category. Half in, half out. And that's why I tell people, you just go to church to check your conscience, or you're going to church to evolve. And many people are struggling today because they didn't close their past. There's some things that you will never have answers for. But I promise you, you need to begin to focus on your present in order to build your future. Because if you think that you can arrive in your future with the present mind, then you're contradicting the Bible. Romans 12, 1 and 2. Body, it says, be not conformed to this world. Let me give you a lay example. When I was a kid, it tells my age. Many of you have never even heard of this, called leaded gasoline. It was 23 cents a gallon. And I had a milk jug. And I could take 23 cents, including the tax, and go and get gas and cut grass all day. Go to the gas pump now and see if you can get a gallon of gas for 23 cents. What am I saying as I get ready to close? We're going to have to embrace where we are. It's not what's being done. It is not even about how we react or it's how we will respond. If you don't see the value in networking, you don't see the value in coming together as one, you don't see the value of a strong prayer life, you don't sit down and evaluate yourself, because when you go into the number 7 and start perfecting the changes that you've had, how can you have a new day when you're still functioning with an old you? God bless you. I'll see you soon.